So how do we go from a dog who is consistently pulling and lunging at the leash, showing no focus on the owner, to a dog who is super focused and walks almost perfectly on the leash, even being neutral around other dogs? Well, friends, let me show you. To change this, first let's analyze his behavior on the leash so we know exactly what behaviors to tackle. Toby has anxiety on walks. He's always whining, he's very tense, and he's very alert on walks. When he ignores my calls here, you can tell that he has little to no regard for what I want him to do. Any competing motivator, even just something he wants to smell, is enough for him to completely ignore my commands. The reason why Toby pulls is accidental negative reinforcement, i.e., every time something is removed, it reinforces the likelihood of the behavior. For example, Toby is pulling to get to a smell that he wants to smell, and once he gets there, the pressure goes away. The pressure goes away, they're at the smell, and they got the thing that they wanted to by pulling. Pulling was reinforced. Here we are entering a very high-stress corner where there is plenty of dogs and the playground. Toby is so stressed, he's whining, and he won't even sit for me.
Do you sit?
His hackles are raised, his body is tense, and he's very alert. He's very anxious at this corner. He's even whining. What I'm going to do is completely change Toby's thinking. All of the nervous energy is causing him to lose focus and pull on the walk. What I'm going to do is have him channel that nervous energy into listening to me. I'll condition this response using positive punishment and positive reinforcement. First, I'm going to practice walking in U-turns without saying anything to Toby. When Toby misses the U-turn because he wasn't focusing, he is positively punished, punishing him by adding that uncomfortable pressure of catching the end. When Toby does catch the U-turn and spins on a dime, I will praise him, and I will keep the leash nice and loose. Positive punishment happens right here as Toby catches the end of the leash. And Toby catches the turn here, so I give him a great big good boy and keep walking nice and loosely. He catches the turn again because he's starting to understand that I want him to focus. We'll repeat this until Toby gets the U-turns almost 100% of the time. He'll get the U-turns because he will have been focusing on me, and by teaching this and doing this over and over again, he's learning that he needs to focus on me, otherwise he'll get the pressure of the end of the leash just like he did right there. Toby actually had so much great progress from just this one session, but I didn't get any footage of it because the next day it was crazy to see how much he improved and how much he remembered. He was walking flawlessly on the leash and almost staying in a perfect heel with a super loose leash. Today there was lots of distractions at the park, which was perfect. Also a lot of sunlight, we weren't lurking in the dark. As you can see, he gets a little bit carried away here catching the end of the leash, but he's still quite focused, and you can see how he's already learned to focus on me so much more than his external surroundings. He was doing so good, I had to give him treats every 3 seconds. He almost had his full attention on me and even stayed in a perfect heel walking past his biggest trigger. Kids. He had a couple moments where he kind of caught the end, but his attention almost always went right back on me, and he was also very relaxed, despite there being dogs and kids everywhere. There was even a point where a dog came up from the ravine, and he still kept his focus on me. There was a moment where he thought about it, but his impulse control has also gotten so much better due to our training. Today, Toby has mastered the U-turn and focus. The next day, we're going to focus on desensitizing him to dogs. He already remembers all of his loose leash training, which is awesome. Right here is positive punishment into play. As the dog comes up from the ravine, I begin to walk away. Toby keeps his focus on the dog and begins pulling, so I give him a couple corrections and pots with the leash, and right here he comes right back to me and gets into a sit. I reward him for responding to the call. This is Toby's body language before we even started training.
Hey.
He's quite tense, however he does respond to my call here. I give him some comfort and treats for listening. We start a safe distance away from the dogs and keep practicing our U-turns. As you can see, the dogs were quite a motivator, but I reward Toby every time he listened. Dogs are a very high-value distractor for Toby. That's why it's very important to practice his focusedness on me while near other dogs. And as you can see, he's doing a great job listening and following my direction. Even when I thought he was going to ignore me, he still listened and would come back every time, and I would give him great rewards for listening. The goal is to maintain the focusedness and neutrality with the other dogs, even at close distances. I keep using the U-turn exercise to make sure that he keeps his focus on me. Of course, I use that positive punishment every time he does stray away, and here we are getting even closer to the dogs. Even though Toby is on high alert, with gentle punishment, he will come back and listen to me. We practice inching closer and closer and rewarding Toby for not giving any sort of reaction. Toby is by no means fully neutral around dogs, however, this is great practice for his focus and pulling. This will really improve his impulse control and also his ability to make good decisions when there are other motivators. Here I create a bit of a positive association with the dogs by throwing treats around and playing fun little go find it games with him. It's also really important that I watch him so that I can redirect him every time that his body language indicates that he might suddenly spring up. He can slowly start to learn to redirect his emotions and understand that it's a positive association with the dogs. Right here, despite us being so close to the dogs, Toby was giving me his undivided attention, so I did a very, very scary thing of dropping the leash. I kept focusing on his recall, and if he felt distracted, I simply redirected him with treats. He was even focused enough to follow me after I called him away from the dogs, despite him knowing that he could go. Here he flares up a little bit, but that simple punishment brings him right back to my side by just adding a little bit of pressure. The next step is him following me even when I move super sporadically. It's basically just focusing on him, focusing on me so that he knows where to go so he doesn't catch the end of the leash, further reinforcing that attention on me. For some reason, I don't have a single speck of footage of it, but every time Toby stopped when I stopped, I gave him lots of treats and continued walking. Next, I took him on a realistic walk where I would stop every couple seconds, and at first he wasn't very aware and his attention was not on me at all. However, with a couple punishments, he was back to his focus being right on me, even being comfortable enough walking past a stranger without me having to do or say anything. Right here he stops, so I give him a treat because he's listening to me, and we basically had a perfect walk. I think the real triumph was seeing how relaxed he was and how he was still able to enjoy his walk while still maintaining that focus on me. I basically didn't have to say or do anything this entire walk because he was listening so well. I didn't get any footage of it, but he was even calm enough to let a little girl coming home from school pet him. And even though we had to walk by the big scary road, he was still listening so well and tried to stay calm as much as he could. I would say the hardest part for me personally was keeping my patience and staying consistent with the training. That, and also making sure my family stayed consistent with training. I think Toby definitely suffered from that inconsistency because you could definitely tell which days someone else had walked him compared to me. However, I have completely changed the way Toby walks on the leash for everyone now. This in all took about a month to complete, and that was mainly because not everyone stayed consistent with the training. My family. But all is forgiven because now we have not one, but two perfect leash walking dogs. While Toby still does struggle with other dogs and fence aggression, he has completely changed the way that he behaves on the leash. Walks have become so much less stressful for the handler, Toby, and even Wally. I have successfully cured Toby's illness of leash pulling by counter-conditioning him into using his anxious energy into attention on the handler. I highly recommend that if anyone has problems with leash aggression or pulling, try this method. If you want a more in-depth video, look at Hamilton dog training, because holy cow, they changed my life. This really doesn't take all that much time. It's mainly just about reinforcing the behavior that takes time, but you will notice a huge improvement in your dog even just after the first session, and you don't even need that many treats, so it saves money. Anyways, thank you for watching, and good boy, Toby.